you better hold on to your honey, because you're in bear country. Welcome to the PC Nation Playbook, your go-to source for Pierce County sports and events. Join your hosts, Joey Lee, Andrew Cuneo, and Jeremy Gove from the Mike Birch Ford Showroom for the latest news, in-depth analysis, and exclusive interviews with coaches and players. Join the PC Nation. Go Bears!
The PC Nation Playbook is produced by Mike Birch Ford. You can watch and listen to our show on YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on those channels to help others discover the show. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss an episode. Plan your hunting getaway and escape to experience the beauty of Mossy Pond. Our diverse property right here in Pierce County allows you to enjoy various types of hunts, including plantation-style quail, hog, pheasant, and flooded timber-style duck hunts, all within 24 hours. At the center of it all, experience scenic, rustic, beautiful, and inviting amenities like luxury lodging, our first-class pro shop, fine dining, and the perfect event space. Book now and see why Mossy Pond Lodge is Georgia's premier hunting paradise.
Get ready for massive savings. Invoice pricing is here. Looking to get into a brand new 2025 Ford? At Mike Birch Ford, you can order any 2025 model at invoice pricing. That's right. Pay what we pay and drive away with unbeatable value. Exclude specialty models like the Raptor. Stop the search and visit Mike Birch to lock in your 2025 order at invoice.
Welcome back to another week of the Pierce County Nation Playbook. We've got a special guest this week, the voice of the Bears, Keith Ambrose. Keith, appreciate you being here with us.
Appreciate y'all asking me to be here.
Yep, glad to have Keith here with us. And before we get started, early on in the program, I just wanted, Andrew, will you remind me, how many rings does Appleton County have in football?
0. With that being said,
here's my opinion. This is just my opinion. They won their state championship Friday night.
Woo, yeah. It seems like that.
I mean, I would rather lose to an 0-9 team at the end of the season to ever lose to Appleton. I mean, that's, I don't get any Christmas card from anybody in Appleton County. I don't, I'm kind of on their wanted list, so to speak, over there. And it's funny, I get bashed by them all the time, and I get, it's and some other schools across the other river, the other way. I won't name, that bird, but they, but it's funny that we've been bashed by them for so many years. But if you go to their games, they're kind of mimicking what we do. They're trying to. If you listen to stuff that they're doing, stuff, it's so it's kind of a compliment, actually. So. Right. But again, I think they won their state championship Friday night.
We're going to talk a lot about them. I just wanted to get the jab right out the gate.
Yeah,
we'll give credit where credit's due.
Hey,
congratulations! They're the region champs, and
they are. And listen, they won. It's 4 quarters of football, and people's. I've read all kind of different comments about officiating, but it's plain and simple. Yeah. My version of football is plain and simple. You block, you tackle, you score, and whoever does the best of that wins, and they come out on top 13-6, and so
and make the plays when the plays are there.
Exactly. Listen.
Hats off to them. They beat us this year again.
And I'll tip my hat. I'll tip my hat.
Now, Friday night I was a little salty as I drove home behind 500 other Pierce County vehicles. But,
and like I said, I'd rather lose to an 0-9 team, and I don't care who it is, than to lose to Appleton, especially for a region championship. But that saying, 2020, we probably played one of our worst games against Fitzgerald.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened?
Yeah, state championship.
We come back and won a state championship.
Yeah.
Last year,
yeah,
we had a couple games that really. Well, we were kind of lucky that that we won because we come out flat in several ball games, and we ended up putting it together and how we survived Rockmart in that battle that we did. Hats off to Caden McGath. My God, he was a warrior in that ball game.
Yeah.
And we won state championship there. A loss doesn't predict what's going to happen in the future. A lot of times what a loss does is it can either break a team down or it can solidify a team. And I feel like certain losses that we've had has solidified our team in the past. And I'm telling you, and I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to be around Ryan when he's with his coaches around the table, or on Sunday when they're breaking down film or stuff like that. There is no and listen, I've been around Pierce County football I've been around Pierce County football longer than anybody that's associated with Pierce County football, from principals, ADs, coaches. I've seen them all come and go, and we've had some good ones, we've had some bad ones, but Ryan is probably the most dedicated person to Pierce County football that I've ever been around. I mean,
I think that's an understatement.
He eats, sleeps, and drinks Pierce County football. And I can tell you there's nobody in Pierce County that loss Friday night affected more than Ryan here. He probably has not slept until today. I mean, it just... So in saying that, he's going to go and he will pull apart every play, everything that every position player did, and they will fix it this week at practice. I mean, God bless Vidalia coming this Friday night. It'll show on the field. I mean, and so the loss Friday night doesn't bother me as far as going forward. It doesn't bother me as far as how we're going to play in the playoff. That doesn't bother me, because the past has proven what Ryan has done in situations like that to turn the team around. So that I just hate that we lost Appleton. I'd rather lose my big toe than lose Appleton. But that's just me personally.
Yeah,
we didn't play our best game, but we had multiple opportunities to still win that game.
We shot ourselves in the foot several times.
Look, they can call hold on every single play. It just so happened that those were holding calls were always in what I thought were key moments, where it was 3rd and 4, and we were on their side of the field, where it was set up for 2 plays to get 4 yards, and magically it went from 3rd and 4 to 3rd and 14, and that totally changes the mindset of a drive. And
but then you got to go back and look.
The refs weren't real great for either side. No. I don't feel like it was not a great game by them. Their grade, when they get graded by GHSA, will probably reflect that.
And here's one thing that GHSA does, and I have my grumblings with GHSA about a lot of stuff. But here's one thing that GHSA does that I feel like it is a really good thing. They will take games, every game in the state, and they have coaches that are not in your region, that are not in your classification, that have no association to your team whatsoever. And they send these game films to them, and those coaches grade these officials.
They should.
And that's and a lot of people don't realize, but that's how officials get picked for playoffs in the GHSA. So a lot of these officials, once it comes to playoff time, there's no affiliation with your region. There's no affiliation. It's strictly been picked by coaches that has no tie to your program whatsoever, and they've sit down and graded that game based off of how they saw officials officiate the ball game. So that part GHSA does. My hat's off to them for that. And I feel like this officiating crew from Friday night, based just off that one game, they probably won't get a playoff game. But again, that's just my opinion.
Well, and with that being said, you could bring coach in here right now, and I guarantee you the officiating wouldn't be what he said. It would be, he would tell us the missed blocks, the missed tackles, the missed passes,
that'll be the last thing on his list.
And
that's the easiest
he'll
thing.
fix the things he can fix.
And that's the easiest thing to make an excuse for, okay? And here's the other thing you got to think about with officiating. There's 6 officials on the field now with high school football, and they're watching 22 kids.
That's right.
You got 6 guys watching 22 kids, and
we're still talking about $150 a game. It's not like we've got,
exactly.
It's not like they're getting $10,000 a game or something like that, and they're supposed to be perfect.
Well, this isn't their job.
No, this is they got off early on Friday and made the trip to wherever they were coming from.
And so you have to be a little. You have to be a little forgiving for some of these guys.
I did it, so I've
done it too. I've done it too, and a lot of these guys. Heck, you don't know. They may have just come off of a 12 or 16-hour shift at work. They're tired. They got to travel 3 or 4 hours to a ball game, like you said, to make $150, and then they got to listen to some coach on the sideline barking their ear off
and chew them out the whole
all night long. So you can never use the excuse that the officials won the ball game for somebody. Again, it goes back to blocking, tackling, and scoring. And whoever does that best is going to win. And we shot ourselves in the foot right now. We missed some open passes. And I'll go on record as saying this. I think Caden McGath is one of the top quarterbacks in the state of Georgia, hands down.
I don't think that's a question.
He had an off game Friday night.
He did. And you said nobody took it harder than Coach.
Yeah.
Caden probably was second. He was probably second.
Probably didn't sleep a whole lot Friday night. I don't know him personally. I know him through football.
I know him
just
personally.
Knowing
he is
the type of competitor he is. The kid that you don't run the ball 45 times state championship game, and you're not a dog.
Listen, he is what anybody would call an Iron Man. He carries that team, and listen, he has carried that team on his shoulders, like you said, going back to state championship. And anybody, a coach can have an off game. A player, anybody can have an off game, and for whatever reason, Friday night, just that little touch on the ball, wasn't there, or maybe not seeing the open receiver. It just whatever. It is what it is. But again, it goes back to X's and O's. Coach breaking down the film, figuring out what we did wrong, getting to practice this week, breaking the guys down, building them back up, and having them ready to play football Friday night. That's high school football.
That's right. And I guarantee you, if you ask him today, does he want another shot at him? I guarantee you he says, I hope we play them again so that I can make up.
And very well could. They have they started off a little rocky at the beginning of the season, and they have solidified as a good team.
They're big kids. They're always big.
They're huge.
Big, athletic. And those two in high school usually correlate to pretty good teams.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's got to be something with the Waterwood Plant Hatch or something over there, because
kids are always big.
It's just they're huge, man. I mean, even going back to when I was in high school, they were always bigger than we were. I mean, just not even like close. It was like me playing against Joey. I mean, that's what it looked like. I mean, it was that much of a difference, and I don't get it. I mean, one county apart, and it's ridiculous. But anyway.
Well, hey, Ryan here, and he's still Lord of the Rings. Throw the visual up for him, Goes. He's still the Lord of the Rings. We're still the standard.
We are.
For football in AA.
I mean, it was that was probably the shock wave that went across the state Friday night. Appling upsets Pierce County. It was kind of
we knew it would be a battle.
We did.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware folks. We're excited to announce that Waycross will be getting an upgrade in the fix-it department. Locally owned Farmers and Builders is the latest helpful addition to the neighborhood. Visit their new location at 121 Victory Drive in Waycross. You can count on Farmers and Builders for hand-picked products like Traeger, Milwaukee, and Yeti. Not to mention award-winning service and advice you can count on. Join us November 22nd through 23rd, 2024 for the grand opening of Farmers and Builders in Waycross. Bennett & Johnson Insurance is an independent agency with the customer in mind. We have relationships with dozens of insurance companies and are dedicated to finding the right coverage with the best company at the best price for you. Contact Bennett & Johnson for all of your insurance needs. Go Bears!
Anybody, and again, I kind of relate it to SEC football. Any team can lose on any given Friday night. Any team can lose on any given Saturday. I mean, you just look at some of the upsets that was in SEC football this past Saturday, and Coach Kirby Smart has said it best. If you want some, sign up. If you sign up for it, and that's what we do, playing against teams like Appleton County on Friday night. Go and play Brooks County, a 1A team. Who I would put Brooks County up against most teams in the state of Georgia as far as strictly strength, power, and size.
Yeah,
a 1A team.
Yeah.
I mean, they got grown men over there. So any given Friday night, you slip up, you miss tackle, you miss block. Any given Friday night, what happened this past Friday night can happen. And if you're not on your A game, you're going to lose.
Yeah. Well, it's still great and always great to be a Pierce County Bear.
Always.
And I think the message is do not give up on these guys because, like you said, they're probably working harder now than they have all year, as hard as they've already worked, and with more focus. And we still got all the marbles to play for.
Yeah, I mean, there's honestly, if you look at from this Friday night on, if you make it to the state championship, you've got over half of a season of football left.
Yeah.
If you look at the number of games that's left to play.
Right.
So that has to be your focus. You can't look at going into game 9 or game 10 as being at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I think we've gotten past that around here.
Yeah,
That's
we have. And granted, like I said, I've been here 27 years, and I've seen the backside of that to where we were glad to see game 10.
I was a part of the backside of that.
I mean,
some of those years.
But even y'all had some.
We were decent, but there were some dark days before us too.
I mean, there was y'all had stellar years compared to some of the games that I call where we were 1-9 and 2-8 and 3-7 and stuff like that. And honestly, we were glad to see game 10 come because we
maybe we'll be better next year.
Yeah, we were tired. Yeah, that was all. Well, we got next year. Well,
we were young this year. Maybe these kids will be better.
And then it would always be, well, maybe the new coach that's coming in is going to be better. And it was always something. And I know I'm rabbit holing this. And I'll get off on this, but our success, to me, and this is strictly Keith Ambrose's opinion, and it holds no water to anybody else. But I think if you go back and look, our success started when Sean Pender was here. Sean built a tradition, a gradual progression of winning and showing that we could win with our kids. Listen, the DNA hasn't changed very much in Pierce County. I mean, it's not like that we've had a whole change of DNA composition here in Pierce. Our kids are still the same size. We don't have 4-2-3-5 players out on the field. We don't have very many 300-pound linemen that ever come through Pierce County. I mean, we're lucky if they're 240, 245. That's a big kid for us.
Yeah.
So Sean, with that spread offense that he had, to where you could spread the field out, not have to battle in the trenches, not have to run between the tackles as much, get it out on the edge, get one-on-one kind of stuff. It helped us get confidence in winning. And I've told Sean this personally myself, and I've thanked him. I've said, you turned Pierce County football around, and we've been on that curve since him, and all great programs. You go back and look at Valdosta, you go back and look at Colquitt, you go back and look at Mary Persons, you go back. Every one of them has had that curve, and then for whatever reason, it peters off. And hopefully, as long as Ryan stays here, and then once he leaves, whoever hopefully we've learned that formula that we didn't have before. Part of that formula that I think has made us better is strength and conditioning.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing going back to Sean, he was more of
finesse
and agility. He didn't really focus.
Yeah, the speed track.
Everything. It was almost kind of like akin to Georgia Southern's success back in the mid '80s. You had quick, fast, not big, but very quick, fast linemen that could get to holes, that could get to places to make the blocks, make the chips. Knock people out of the way, not necessarily hold them up. And that was kind of his MO. It worked. We didn't ever win a state championship under him. We won region titles, which we hadn't won very many up until that time. So then the era of our strength and conditioning come in, and our boys started getting not really much bigger, but they got a lot stronger. And I think that's where our next level of success has come, is when we get to the fourth quarter, we're ready to play football. You can look out on the field, and a lot of these other teams that we play, their hands are on their hips, they're on their knees at the line of scrimmage, and we keep, I mean, even going back to Friday night, our guys never quit. I mean, you never saw quit. You saw frustration. There was some frustration on their faces. There was some kind of hands up in the air, like, what the heck's going on? But they never quit. They're battle tested. But it goes back to that weight room. Our success right now, I believe, other than the coaching. I mean, I will tip my hat to Ryan here and his coaching staff for the rest of my life. But the weight room has made all the success in Pierce. I mean, there's no way, if you look on paper, when we line up against Rockmart last year, they got a 305, 315 pound nose guard. We got a 200 pound center whipping his tail all ball game long. That's not supposed to happen, and it does. But you can go back and look how many state championships did we win in weightlifting last year?
Yeah.
I mean,
True.
There's a testament to what is the formula and what's going on. We may not win a state championship this year. I hope we do. But the formula is still there to win it next year. The formula is still there to win it the next year, as long as we keep doing what we're doing. We got some very talented kids that's coming behind these kids that are seniors this year. So the loss doesn't mean a whole lot to me, Friday, other than pride. I mean, it hurts you.
Well,
pride.
it just means we've got to go to somebody else's house in the playoffs probably at some point to go win a state championship. And guess what? It'll be even more fun to go whoop up on somebody in the third and fourth round.
And
We could get a first there.
We could.
Because we've never won a first.
And I was fixing to say that. A lot of people don't realize this. We've never won a road playoff game in the history of Pierce County football. The last two state championships, we've been extremely lucky with the coin toss.
Yeah.
And we've had home. And I truly feel like our home field is home field advantage. I mean, we try to build, me and John Deal try to build an environment that's
You'll do a good job.
That's just different. Fun. That's different than anywhere that you go. And we toe that line sometimes, and we get our hand popped from time to time from officials, but we know where that line is, and we try to carry it up there. And especially if there's a tip in the ball game to where maybe it's going their way a little bit, we try to stick our thumb in there a little bit and get it switched back around. And so I do feel, and that, going back to GHSA wants neutral.
Yeah,
they want it neutral. And my feeling is, what the crap's the point in having home field advantage if you got to be neutral?
Yeah,
and so
it's not supposed to be level.
It's not. There's no sense in you playing as hard, training as hard, and practicing as hard as you do to play on a neutral side. I mean, I don't get that mentality, and I never will. And as long as I'm calling football games, I'm never going to call it that way.
Well, that's why from year to year, I come here, you go there. It swaps out every other year for the home field advantage.
I've said this to some GHSA officials, and I said, look right here. With all the money that y'all make and all the money that y'all bring in, if y'all so worried about neutral sites, why don't y'all go all over the state and build about 12 or 14 stadiums?
Yeah.
And then have football games played there, and y'all can have all the neutral sites y'all want. That, of course, didn't go very well with them. But that's the point. I mean, school, like Pierce County, we have spent millions of dollars on a top-notch, beautiful facility we have out there. Why don't we deserve to have home field advantage? And, again, I don't mean saying anything degrading over to Mike or anything, but to build an atmosphere to where you have home field advantage, there should never be a question about that. Yeah. And in their eyes there is. But, again, that's just...
It makes it less fun.
That's my humble opinion.
But, anyway, we'll talk about you, Keith.
Oh, boy. That's a rough subject there.
So... Before we started taping, one thing that we were talking about was one thing I've been wanting to do all year was give credit where credit's due to Charles Bowen. If you don't know this, for the slogan, that we use and that
Hold
you
on to your
repeatedly
honey.
say, you better hold on to your honey because
You're in bear country.
you're in bear country.
Yep.
And I love that.
Uncle
Talk
Charles,
about Uncle Charles a little bit.
Well, Uncle Charles, he did Pierce County football. Well, Pierce County and Blackshear Tigers. A lot of people don't, if they don't know, Uncle Charles come from the Blackshear Tigers when schools merged in 80, was 80, yeah, 80,
82?
Or 80 or 81, somewhere along there. And he transitioned over as the voice then. And as a slogan, that's what he come up with, with us being the Bears. He come up with, you better hold on to your honey because you're in Pierce County. A lot of people, because I've been doing it for so long, I'm in my 27th year, and a lot of people, they ask me, where did you come up with that? And I'm like, I didn't come up with it. And a lot of people, the younger generation, they have no clue who Charles Bowen is. Right. And he truly had a iconic voice.
He did. I could still hear you.
Much better than mine. He just had that almost radio voice, almost that deep Troy voice. Maddox type broadcasting voice. He had that.
Pierce Timber Company is proud to sponsor the PC Nation Playbook and our Pierce County Bears. We are a full-service timber company from purchasing to harvesting to reforestation. Pierce Timber is your resource for all of your timber needs.
It makes sense Prime South Bank would have a great mobile app. Nobody is as mobile as our customers. For a century, they've chased dreams, followed their hearts, took the road less taken, made a new path, taken leaps of faith. At Prime South, offering the latest digital banking, secure pay apps, and new online lending is part of a mobile tradition that goes way back. Life is mobile. So is Prime South. Find your Prime. Member FDIC.
And so I actually, when I took over for him in 97, I was trying to come up, we were doing a lot of air raid stuff back then, throwing the ball a good bit, and I was trying to come up with all kind of different slogans, and nothing worked. Nothing felt right. Nothing seemed to make sense. And so I called him one day. I was like, "Uncle Charles, you got to help me come up, with a slogan, like what you used." And I can still remember. He said, "Son, we already got a slogan. Use the one we got." He said, "That's our slogan." And so from then on, I about halfway of that 97 season, I went back to using "Hold On to Your Honey," and I've used it ever since. So.
Yeah, it's iconic in PC Nation.
It is. It's funny. I was at a dealership. I was in a dealership in Statesboro, Georgia. The latter part of my career in the car business, I was doing some consulting work and stuff like that, and I ran into a guy who played for, I think it was Metter. Pretty sure it was Metter. He was quarterback for Metter, Georgia. And he said, and we got talking about high school football and this, that, and the other. And he said, "Yeah," he said, we went and played football in Pierce County in 85, 86, somewhere along there. He said, "They had this daggum announcer, this 'Hold On to Your Honey.'" He said, "We heard that crap all night long."
Okay, yeah.
And at that point, I still hadn't told him I was the PA announcer for Pierce County. So and I said, "Well," I said, "if you come back to Pierce County, you're still going to hear it." I said, "Because we're still using." I said, "And that, by the way, that was my uncle that did that." And he was like, "My God, we heard that." Because Uncle Charles, he wouldn't use it just at the beginning of the football game.
Right, yeah. He did it throughout the game.
Like if we scored, there was a couple different things. He might not say the whole phrase.
Yeah. He would say, "Hold on to your honey," or it would come out. And so that guy said, "We were sick and tired of hearing 'Hold On to Your Honey' at the end of the ball game." So yeah, great testament goes back to Uncle Charles. He gave me the opportunity to. And if y'all want to hear this, kind of fun. Yeah, tell us how you got the job.
How I got the job. He come by work, I think it was on a Thursday. It might have even been a Friday of the ball game. And he said, "Son, you going to the ball game tonight?" And I said, "Uncle Charles, I'm going." He said, "Well, come sit in the booth with me tonight." And I was like, okay. He said, my spotter's not going to be there tonight. And he said, I need somebody to help me spot. He said, I'm getting old. My eyes just don't work like they used to, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, I'll go. Well, back then, home side was the visitor side, where the little box, that was our box, that little box. And actually, that box is what come from Blackshear Tiger Stadium. That's the old press box from Blackshear Tiger Stadium. So anyway, I went up there and I sit with him, and he had his little 3x5 index cards where he had like all of his announcements and advertisements, and for whatever reason, he was showing me all this stuff, like, just, well, this is what I do with this, and this is what I do with that, and this is how I do that. The whole first half, he was kind of going over that kind of stuff with me, and I thought it was kind of weird. And so we get to right before, about 2 minutes before halftime or whatever. And he said, son, what do you think about this? And I said, that's pretty neat, Uncle Charles. That's a bunch to keep up with. He handed me the mic. He said, good, it's your job now. And got up and walked out. It was halftime. I thought he'd be back. I thought he was just going down the concession stand or whatever, and he'd be back after halftime.
He never came back.
He never comes back. So I'm sitting up there after halftime, never done anything. I didn't know how to turn the PA off. I mean, I'd never in my life done anything remotely close to that. So I'm sitting there about to pee my pants and trying to figure out what to say and how to stumble through this thing. And anyway, we get through the ball game, and I survived. And I think it was either Saturday or Monday. I was like, Uncle Charles, what? So I said, what did you leave me with? He said, son, you got this. He said, I wouldn't have trusted anybody else to do it and take it on if I didn't think you could do it. So 27 years later, I'm doing it. He kind of ended up, he told me a little story. He kind of ended up with he ended up with a job with the Tigers, kind of the same way he did me. The gentleman, and I know no names or anything, but the gentleman owned one of the funeral homes here in Blackshear. He was the the PA guy. 2 Friday nights in a row, he got death calls that he had to leave the ball game to go on a death call for somebody, and finally got frustrated with it. And on that second death call that he had to go to, he handed the mic to Uncle Charles and said, "Here, this is your job. This is your job now." So that's how he ended up with job. And he basically, when I talked to him that Saturday morning, he said, "Son, my knees, I can't hardly get up them stands anymore." And he said, I just can't do it. He said, "It's time for somebody else to take over."
Trial by fire.
Yeah, that's good.
And it was. I was baptized by the fire, and it really was a learning curve. And back then the internet wasn't what it is today, but I would go try to watch videos and just different stuff just to try to pick up techniques and stuff to say and different things. And I feel like over the years we've gotten a lot better at it. I think we're in our 7th year, maybe our 8th year. We added the music that we do now, and so we've tried to tweak some things, do some things, and we got some things in next year that we're wanting to do different. We're going. I'm looking at buying like a kind of a soundboard type thing to where it's like an instant sound that you can, like, bomb, or we throw, that we don't have to fumble with the computer trying to play stuff. So we're looking at doing different things just to add to it and make we do the thing now where why can't we be friends? A song, like if somebody gets a personal foul, we do that. We do different stuff just to add some flair to it. But it's fun. People's always ask me how long are you going to do it, and
Till he dies.
And I tell them the same thing. As long as it's still fun, and as long as I still get butterflies, and this is no lie. I mean, I literally get, I wouldn't say nauseated, but every Friday night, I mean, I get I get amped up on the inside, and I guess until I lose that feeling, well,
you're not old enough to give it up yet.
I'm 52, but I will say this: I was a little worried. I kind of thought this was going to be my last year, because I took a new job in November of last year at the railroad, and everything with railroads based off of seniority, and so I didn't have any days off, And just by luck, how my jobs have fallen on the extra board and stuff like that, I've been able to make every home game this year. So it's next year I will have some time off that I can take if I need to. But it's by the grace of God
Worked out.
God's
a Bear fan.
Yes, it's worked out, and I did have to leave.
Google of that.
I did have to leave one game, Windsor Forest. I had to leave that game about 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and I turned it over to John Deal, and he finished out the game for me. He was not very appreciative of that, but
are you going to hand the mic to him one day and say it's yours?
That's funny that you say that. I've kind of thought about how will I end my legacy or whatever that It's kind of got to be a tradition, kind of like that, being that Uncle Charles was done that way, and then he did me. It's got to be I've got to come up with something like that.
John might leave with you if you try. He may.
And listen, I do want to.
There's enough Bowens here to keep it in the Bowen family.
Lord, there's still enough Bowens in the family. Again, I get a lot of the undue credit for the atmosphere that's created there. John Deal. I really don't have any part, so to speak, in I'll yell over to him every now and then, hey, play this, or let's hit this, or certain. But John Deal, he runs that computer. I mean, he picks the song. Like our last home game, he kind of come up with a theme for Halloween. A lot of his music was with kind of a Halloween tie to it, and so he does that. I couldn't. John is a dear friend of mine, but I couldn't do what he does with the song. I mean, he collaborates all of that himself, and so
he always does a good job.
He does. So a lot of that atmosphere that's created at ball games, I give him 100%, compliment on that. I just get up there and run my mouth. A lot of people ask me, well, how do you come up? I don't. It just comes out. I mean,
Fourth and Pendarvis.
I just come up with whatever, and it's just stuff that hits me at the time, and it's and that part of it also has become a little more. It's not in the beginning I had to force a lot of stuff because I just wasn't comfortable with knowing what I was doing, and the longer I've done it and become more comfortable with it, it's just it's kind of second nature now. And then a lot of things help out, like kids' names, like Campbell Strickland, having the nickname Soup. Open up a can of Soup Strickland on somebody, and just stuff lends itself to what you're doing up there. So I enjoy it. It's fun. I give Coach Jernigan a lot of stress because he said there's two things on Friday night. He said the greatest and worst thing on Friday nights is Keith Ambrose having a mic in his hand. He said you do such a great job, but I never know what's coming out of your mouth. And so he does have some angst, sometimes. And we have had some, we've had a fine or two in the past. And I do remember one game. This was pretty early in my career. Maybe I'd been there 4 or 5 years or something, and man, the officials had just butchered a play. And in high school football, there's no such thing as a uncatchable. That rule's changed a little bit, but there's no such thing as an uncatchable pass. I mean, it can be 10 yards over your head, and if you hit the player before it gets there, it's still pass interference. Well, the official originally called the play right and called it pass interference. The opposing coach, they raised Cain, they all come together. Well, they come back, said it wasn't, said it was uncatchable. Well, of course, that's not the rule.
Not the rule.
So literally, this went back, like they threw the penalty, picked up. This went back and forth. I mean, we literally wasted 10 minutes probably of the ball game. And there was an official in the stands, I think it was either grading the game or he may have just been there, I don't know. But anyway, he finally steps in. He was like, upper level head honcho or whatever, steps in and says, no, it's a penalty. So they finally get it right. Of course, I can't resist. And I said, finally, after a meeting of the small minds, here comes another penalty. So we lost that 15 yards that we gained on it. So that's technically the only penalty I've had called on me in 27 years. But they weren't real happy with me. The coaches weren't real happy with me that night. But that was, and I've had one other gaffe, and we were playing Dodge or either Tombs. I think it was Dodge in a playoff game at home. And this is when they had flip sides. PA was on our home side now, but the visitors were still over there because they hadn't finished the stands yet. So the visitors were sitting on what's now the home side. My son, he was probably 3-ish, 4-ish, somewhere along there, and he was in my lap, sitting in my lap. And I had the mic kind of laid against my chest, and he was squirming around. I was trying to get him settled. Well, they were in punt formation. Punt the ball. Kid literally punched the ball backwards, out of bounds. I mean, how physically he does this, but he kicks it and it goes out of bounds into the stands. Well, while all this is going on, I'm switching lane around. I got the mic here and push. Well, somehow the mic got pushed on, and it was like literally right here. And I just go, and I was like, well, that sucks. And of course, so I looked down, and all the opposing fans are looking up at me.
Oops.
How y'all doing? So,
well, you know, stating obvious.
So that's so knock on wood. That's really my only 2 really bad gaffes I've had in 27 years, and I've had a lot of good memories. Even through the sucky years. And I say that with
it is what it is.
Quotations around
dark ages.
Yeah, it's been fun, man. It's just being, I didn't get to play football my senior year. I was in a car wreck the summer of my 12th grade and broke my back in a car wreck. So I didn't get to play football my senior year, which, a side note, I sucked. I mean, it wasn't that I'd have probably been on the field playing, but I didn't get to be a part of my senior year on the football team. So being able to be, a small part of Pierce County football that I've been, all these years, it's kind of filled that, because there's nothing like Friday Night Lights.
No.
It's just
especially at home, and y'all are a big part of that.
But it's just just being out there on the field, and you looking back up in the stands, and you hear the even if you've got a 3-7 season or a 6-4 season or whatever, it's still
fun.
You got memories. You're gonna have good memories. The good memories are going to outweigh the bad memories, no matter what. And so, I didn't get to experience that, my senior year, and so this has been kind of a good gap measure for me to be able to do this and still stay a part of it and feel relevant to Pierce County football. And again, how long I'm gonna ride it, as long as it lasts. It's just been it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. I've met some really cool people over the years. A lot of neat coaches. I've made some friendships that'll last for years to come. So it's one of the best gigs I've ever had for a Friday night.
Well, we always appreciate everything you do.
This is the halfway point of our interview with Keith Ambrose, the voice of the Bears. If you're enjoying this conversation, be sure to check out part 2 of this interview, episode 9 of the PC Nation Playbook. We'll see you there. Go Bears.